cutest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel where we talk about travel and language learning. My name is Kristen. I've mentioned it so many times in the past, but I finally want to sit down and tell the story of my very favorite time that I spent in Japan. This was when I was in Tokushima and I was doing a Workaway. I can't believe it, but it's already been 3 years since then. If you don't know what Workaway is, it's basically a website where you go on and you look for people who would host you in their home countries in exchange for like some work or language exchange. In my case, I wanted to go to a smaller town in Japan, and so I found one that was in Tokushima, which is definitely a smaller city and less things to do if you're a city person, but I absolutely loved it. When I found this Workaway online, it was for a nonprofit organization, and they were basically keeping the roads clean and planting flowers along the streets, and that was all I really knew about it at the time. And also on the Workaway page, it promised to help with your learning Japanese, and so that really intrigued me because, you know, 3 years ago my Japanese was still kind of So I messaged this person on Workaway and they got back to me immediately, and they were super helpful answering all my questions. They gave me a detailed explanation of how to get there from the Kansai airport, which was where I was going to be arriving through. Also, there was a lot of reviews on this Workaway page that was explaining how awesome it was. So I knew that other people had stayed there before and enjoyed it. So from all these things, I could kind of tell that it was going to be not a sketchy situation like I had put myself in the first time. If you haven't seen that story, I will leave that video up here. So basically, I felt a lot more comfortable going into this situation than I did the first one. So I took 3 months off of work and I flew over there and met the people who were running the nonprofit, who were lovely. One of them spoke really good English, and one of them, I think he understood English and could speak English, but he chose not to, which I kind of appreciated actually. When I first arrived, there was actually no other Workawayers there, so I had the whole dorm to myself. What it was basically a small apartment, Japanese style apartment, where you have 2 rooms that are just separated by kind of a sliding door, and in both rooms there was some bunk beds. And I was just in one of those all by myself. There was too a cool little common area on the bottom floor where everyone would gather and hang out when more people did eventually arrive. When I decided to go though, it was January, and I don't remember why I did that because that was not the best decision of this trip. It is so cold in Japan in January. I'm not used to that. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. It doesn't really get like freezing temperatures here. So yeah, that was a bit of a shock for me. And all we had was this little gas heater that we couldn't be running all the time because, you know, the gas container was only so big too. And the people who ran the place knew exactly how much gas we were using because they would go themselves to refill it. So yeah. I did though have an electric heated, I can't remember if it was a blanket or a mattress pad, and that was amazing and a lifesaver because it was so cold. My sister actually sent me this video of a song in Japanese with a little penguin, and you should go watch it. I'm gonna link it up here, but you should go watch it because that is exactly what I experienced while I was there. So yeah, like basic, comfortable, but not like luxury, comfortable accommodations, and that was totally fine. So a typical day would start with breakfast, and a local cafe would always feed us breakfast, and we got to really know the owner of this cafe. She was a lovely, lovely person, and we would like practice our Japanese with her every day. She made the best coffee too. It was the Japanese style, like pour over coffee, and you know, you had to wait a little bit to get it, but then it was the best. From there, we could just walk to where we start the day with the flowers on the side of the road. So they had this really big, like, how do you explain it? It was an enormous tub on wheels, and we would fill it with water every day, and then we'd roll it around the streets and, you know, dip our like watering cans in there and water all the flowers along the side of the road just to, you know, keep the roads pretty. That's something that I love so much about Japan is, sorry, side note, but I love the way that Japanese people value keeping their cities clean and pretty. We even would do some trash pickup some days, and it was kind of funny because we wouldn't find trash just like laying around, you know, like someone just tossed it out their car window or something. We would find trash hidden in bushes and in like sidewalk cracks and things like that. Because they, like, it's their culture that you don't just litter out in the open. I mean, you can argue it's worse to hide it, but at least like you can't see it with the naked eye, so it looks a little better. So that was the main body of work that we did every day. And then there was this side project that they were doing, which was a radio show. I didn't even really know about this before I went, but they were like, hey, we have a radio show that we're doing, that we're trying out, you know, do you want to be on it? And of course I was like, well, sure, I'm here, why not, you know? And then they were like, okay, you're gonna be the host. So out of my comfort zone, nothing I'd ever done before, but it was so fun actually. And you know, most of the other workawayers that came were shorter term stays. And then since I was the one who was staying for like a full 3 months, I was kind of like the interviewer, and often we would talk about things to do with the other person's country and, you know, compare things. It was pretty neat. I learned a lot, and I definitely, you know, I got pushed out of my comfort zone, which is good, it's healthy. But the reason that I call this experience like my life-changing travel experience was because they also asked us to go to an international preschool to help teach these kids English. If you had met me before this trip, I would have told you that I don't really like kids. You know, I hadn't spent much time with them growing up, or, you know, at all in my adult life really, even until this trip. The first time I met these kids, we were going there to teach them how to make mochi. So if you know, the actual Japanese like traditional way of making mochi is to take some, like, I think it's like wet rice, and you just pound it with a hammer in this big stone bowl. Obviously you can't give a 2-year-old or 3-year-old a big hammer and, you know, do perfect timing with them. But so they had these tiny little like toddler-sized hammers, and they were just like, they had to kind of pick the kids up a lot of the time and like hold them over the bowl so they could hit the mound of rice. Oh, it was the cutest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. So despite my initial apprehension, I ended up going to see these kids a lot. Like, they asked us to come like 3 times a week, and I ended up going almost every day of the week. Because this was an international preschool, there was a couple of children who actually spoke English as their first language and were living in Japan, and so they were so excited to have someone to speak English with. It was like instant friendship. But even the Japanese kids were so excited to try talking to you, and you know how kids are, they don't care if they make a mistake speaking English, so they just say things. And you know, other kids didn't really care at all about speaking English, and they just wanted me to cuddle them, and it was so cute. There was one little boy whose mom was pregnant, and so he was kind of needy at that time, you know, and so he would cry his eyes out if you put him down. He just wanted to be cuddled all the time. Then there was this one kind of funny incident where, so one of the people who were running the nonprofit had this T-Rex costume, and thought it would be fun to dress up in the T-Rex costume and go into the kids' like play area and chase them around with the dinosaur costume. Most of the kids loved this. They were, you know, they were like screaming and having a good time and just laughing and playing and chasing him too. And then there was one of the English-speaking little girls who was very like charismatic and talkative and stuff, but she was like frozen with fear and just all of a sudden started screaming, like bloody murder screaming. And she runs over to me and grabs me, and she won't let go and is like burying her face in my shirt. And so I felt so bad, so I pick her up, and you know, she's screaming in my ear. And I pick her up and I'm taking her over to a corner, and then there's this other little girl who's only like 2 years old and is one of the cutest little girls I've ever seen. But she was just standing in the middle of the floor, just quietly sobbing. And I felt so bad for her too. So I go and I scoop her up too, and I have two little girls crying in my shoulders and just like destroying my shirt with their tears. It was kind of sad, but like also adorable, and I felt really happy that I could, you know, be there for them, because I'd never really had that feeling before. You know, I wasn't really a kid person. So I was just hiding in a corner with these two little girls sobbing into my shoulder until he finally left with the dinosaur costume. And so I was like, okay, the monster's gone, you know? I can't even tell all the stories that I have from just that 3-month trip. The people that I met were some of the most amazing people that I've ever met. Both the people who were workawayers and the people that were Japanese that were helping out as well. There was an amazing little international bar that we would go to all the time and meet a whole bunch of people, both foreigners who were just traveling and also Japanese people who were trying to learn English better. We went and saw the Naruto whirlpools, climbed the little mountain that's in Tokushima. Then there was some really cool events there too. So there's one really famous event that is unfortunately in the summer, so I didn't get to see that, but it's called the Awa Odori. So it's the Awa Dance Festival. It is now on my bucket list. I will eventually go see that, but other than that, there was like this really cool LED festival, and I actually got to help set it up. This organization actually did a lot of community events, so I got to be a part of a lot of that. I was part of the marathon, just like one of the booths there. I helped put together the LED festival. My favorite attraction was we put lights under trees, and they would change colors as you walk by. They're on motion sensors, right? And then so when one goes off though, it does a ripple effect to all the other trees and changes their colors too. So as you see other people walking along the park, you could see the ripples coming off of where they're walking, and you're making ripples too as you're going through. It's really beautiful. Oh, and there was music to it. I miss Tokushima. Another one of my favorite memories was during this time was the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, and there's this really famous Japanese figure skater named Yuzuru Hanyu, and we didn't have a TV in the dorm, so me and my sister, who came for like a week, we went to the cafe that fed us every morning, and the owner let us watch on her little TV, and she was watching with us, and we got to watch with like this small crowd of other Japanese people, you know, him win his, what was it, second gold medal in a row. And then because I got to stay until the end of March, I was just barely able to catch the cherry blossom viewing season. It was gorgeous. It was actually so much more than I imagined. I really didn't have an interest in seeing the Japanese cherry blossoms before this, because it was like, oh, it's just cherry blossoms. We have that here, right? No, it was, that was really cool. It was amazing. Just an entire park filled with cherry trees, like old ones too, and they were huge and just, you know, coming giant sprawling branches of gorgeous little cherry blossoms. So this one trip is like the reason that I recommend Workaway to everyone. You know, being a part of a small town, a small organization and community where you really get to know people and really get to be a part of everything is the best way to travel, in my opinion. You know, you get to see so much more. You get to experience so much more. And yeah, my Japanese did get a lot better too. There was actually some free classes in Tokushima at City Hall. The level went from about beginner to intermediate, and it was taught in all Japanese. And by the end of it, you know, I was able to really follow along and converse with people a lot easier. There was also some friends that I had that didn't speak English, so I was kind of forced to get better at Japanese. I'll leave a link to this Workaway experience down below, but I do highly recommend it. But you know, there's lots of Workaways that offer various things, and you know, I want to try more Workaways as well. So really what I'm recommending is that whole site and any experience you can find similar to this, where there's a good community of people that will guide you and support you and help you have a lot of fun on your trip. So I hope you enjoyed this story. I could have gone on and on about this experience, but I think I remembered to tell you all the best parts. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. It really, really does help me out, and I'll see you all next time. Duchess, baby, do you want to be in the video? Duchess. Duchess, baby, you want to be in the video? Hi, honey. Come here, come here. Good girl. Say bye.